Just a couple overall thoughts on the wide receiver position before we get into this. I found it very interesting that throughout the league, you look at different teams and their approach of how they're handling the wide receiver position, right? We see Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs. We see Devontae Adams and the Packers. Those guys are let go. But then we see other teams, right? Like Buffalo a few years ago, them bringing in Stephon Diggs was the best move they could have ever made for Josh Allen. And it ended up working out for Minnesota, too, on the other end with Justin Jefferson, them getting their hands on him. And I think it's interesting that there are some teams that are like, okay, like take our wide receiver. We don't want to pay him. We just will get the best value for him right now. And there's some other teams that are just really hungry and trying to get that guy. When it comes to Deebo Samuel, though, I say this. He's asking for about like $27 million. That's Tyreek Hill money. That's Devontae Adams money. That's Stephon Diggs money. That's DeAndre Hopkins money. Like those are the top four guys that are making that kind of money right now. And I'm not going to lie, Lil, like I love Deebo. He was so impressive this past season, and he showed flashes his first couple of years in the league. But for that 8 or 10 game stretch when he was just literally carrying the 49ers to victories by himself, just putting the team on his back, that was super impressive. No doubt about it. But at the same time, like, it was only 10 games. When I'm looking at Devontae Adams, when I'm looking at Tyreek Hill, when I'm looking at Stephon Diggs, who was dominating in Minnesota for a couple of years before he even got to Buffalo, these guys are just older, a little bit more established players in the league. And honestly, like, I don't blame the 49ers for saying, like, hold on, Deebo, you still have a couple more years left on your contract. We're not going to give you $20+ million until you could show us that you could perform at an elite level for multiple years, because let's not forget, this is really the same guy that showed up to camp in 2020 out of shape, got hurt, and couldn't stay on the field. So as great as that 10-game stretch was, I just think he has a little bit more to prove. And I don't blame the 49ers I don't think they're going to trade him, but you know, if he holds out, like let's see him hold out, and they'll probably come up with the deal eventually. But one more other point I'll bring up: if you're the 49ers and you already have a guy in George Kittle that is very impressive when he's on the field, but like he's had a little bit of trouble staying healthy over the last couple of years, and the worry with Deebo is even though he's technically a wide receiver, a big part of his game is that running back ability and that scheme and being a power runner. And we know, like, over the course of time, like, we don't love to pay running backs. We hope that their bodies don't just diminish as quickly. But historically in the NFL, when you're at your best as a running back, it's for a 2-3 year span. So I think that I don't blame the 49ers whatsoever, really, for not giving him Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill money.
I would say this. You know, when I think about it, the fact that we may get Deebo Samuel getting traded before Jimmy Garoppolo is asinine. You know, I just looking at that from that perspective before we even get to the contract and things of that nature and the value of that contract for Deebo Samuel, just looking at that alone, you know, seeing or possibly seeing Deebo Samuel getting traded before Jimmy Garoppolo is asinine to me, bro. I just can't even picture that because of how much Deebo Samuel means to that team. And the fact of the matter is we think the writing is on the wall. We think that the walls of Jericho is crashing and the horns already sounded for Jimmy Garoppolo. We think it's a wrap. So if we see Deebo traded before Jimmy Garoppolo, then, you know, that's going to look to the average eye like what's going on. Now we get to the contract side of things here. And I think you got to pay up. Honestly, and the reason why I think you got to pay up is because you have him playing two positions. You got to get paid like you're playing two positions, bro. You got him playing wide receiver. You got him playing running back. Pay him both. You know what I'm saying? Pay him his money. Because at the end of the day, you're going to run him into the ground. You ran him into the ground last year. Guy was hopping on one leg in Green Bay, bro, out there in the cold, and you still ran him into the ground. You didn't give him the ball in the last 10 minutes of that NFC Championship game. That cost you. That was a game right there. Give him the ball a little bit more. 10 minutes in the fourth quarter against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. You went away from him. You lost. Okay, if he didn't emerge when Jimmy Garoppolo sucked at one point this year. Because remember, there's 2 seasons of Jimmy Garoppolo this year. It was a Jimmy Garoppolo that sucked, and it was a Jimmy Garoppolo that was like, okay, what's up? I'm Jimmy Garoppolo. How you doing, sir? If it wasn't for Deebo, okay, and the emergence of Deebo and him, you know, obviously being hurt last year, but taking it upon himself to be that yak guy, known as the yak, Return of the yak, return of the yards after catch. That's Deebo Samuel's middle name. Okay, and because of his performance, they ran Deebo to the playoffs. They ran Deebo to the NFC Championship game. You minus Deebo, I am not looking at this 49ers team the same at all, and you cannot convince me to look at them similar, okay, if they didn't have Deebo. They're not making it that far. So I think when you talk about Deebo and the fact that he was the best wide receiver outside of Cooper Kupp last year in the National Football League, I think you pay up. Otherwise, you lose him. That's it. And if you lose him, you got a rookie out here in Trey Lance, so you rock with Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever the hell you trying to do with your quarterback situation. We don't even know today. But let's say you go with Trey Lance, then he doesn't have, number one, Mike McDaniels, his offensive coordinator back. He's going to have to deal with that. And he doesn't have his number one wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. And somebody else will have him. So you don't have that luxury of short routes, getting it to Deebo Samuel or just pitching it to him in the backfield and letting him use his legs. And, you know, that's the 49ers problem to deal with. How they deal with that and how they rebound from that, if they have a plan to rebound from that, then maybe you consider it if you have a backup plan. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a backup plan for them, and I don't think they have one for their damn selves. So you pay up.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page that we're not going to trade this guy really under any circumstance. But I will say, I don't think there's a need to pay him right now when he still has a year left on his deal. Like, why not just if he goes out there for a full 15, 16, 17 games this year and produces close to a similar level that he did this past year, fine. I have no problem paying him. I think we're on the same page. He's one of the 10 best receivers in the NFL, maybe better, honestly. He's very valuable to his team, 100%. My issue is, though, like, when you look at other guys, like, in the same range, he's literally asking to be right there with Devontae Adams to be the highest paid receiver in football when he's really only played at an elite level for, like, 14 games. Like, that's a little risky if I'm the 49ers. I just want to see him go out there and do it for a little longer. And if he really wants to go hold out and do that and bring all the attention on himself like that, like, I'd go to hardball with him for a little bit. This is going to be an ugly negotiation. Like, I think it's really trending towards that way because Deebo's out here saying, like, it's $25 million or nothing. And when you look at it from the 49ers perspective, like, for a guy that's done it for not that long and for a guy that, like, with his style of play, I think eventually they're going to get a deal done. But I think also the wide receiver position too, and, like, I know it's a little hard because he's a running back also, but, like, this is what I mean. What approach do the 49ers take? Are they going to be like the Chiefs? Or I know the Packers wanted to retain Adams. He just didn't want to be there anymore. But are they going to be like, okay, like, the Jets, for example, if the Jets call up and offer the number 10 pick for Deebo, like, if you're the 49ers, I would think about doing that, right? Like, I don't think that's a trade that, like, you're just going to just hang up and say no when Deebo has a year left on his contract. Like, I think that's where things get interesting here.
It's tough to say, you know, because, I think you listen to the call. You know, if somebody's buzzing, the Jets is buzzing you with that 10 pick, I won't hang up the phone. Don't get me wrong. I'll listen to the call and see. And it all depends on how you feel about this wide receivers class, which a lot of people like it better than the quarterback class. So, you know, yeah, but I think at some point, the 49ers are going to have to pay up. Right now, also, look at the other guy, the two-headed guy on the other side, Brandon Ayuk. He's in his third year. Next offseason, he's probably going to have to get paid. Unless they, franchise second.
He's all right, but, like, I need to, if I'm the Niners, I'm comfortable paying him big money, like, I want to see him stay on the floor and be productive too. Like, I think these guys, like, still have a lot to prove when they're under contract, right? When these guys still have another year left, like, they just have to prove a little more than this, man. Like Ayuk's a fine player, but, like, you know, like, you can't. This is a salary cap league. Like, when you're paying these guys, like, this amount of money, you have to think about, like, long term. Like, how is this going to play?
And that's why I would pay Deebo. I would pay Deebo because guess what? Now you don't have to pay Brandon Ayuk. You could pay Deebo as your top wide receiver, and then you can have Ayuk think he's going to get paid and let him ball out this year as a prove-it year, and then raise his stock up, and then you can trade him. And you may get something back for Brandon Ayuk. So I think if you're the 49ers, it's not the end of the world. It's not world of the worlds here. You have some leverage if you play smart. You can pay Deebo and let Ayuk play this year because he still has a lot to prove. I think the second half of last season, he definitely played a little bit better for sure, especially in the playoffs. I actually thought he came along really well. But He still has more to prove. You let him prove it, let his trade stock go up, and you trade him and get assets back, and you're not really livid at the Deebo trade, especially if he's healthy and on the football field. I think if you're Deebo, from Deebo's perspective, if you're his agent, you want him to secure that bag. You're not telling him anything otherwise. I mean, I know Deebo Samuel has had his fair shares of injuries upon his NFL tenure, and I get it. But who are you to tell me about injuries, Mr. 49ers, when the 49ers has been dealing with injuries of their own? I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, hello, the starting quarterback of this team, still got paid, even though he's been injury prone from the jump street, okay? He still got his money. Brandon Ayuk, before he even got on the football field, he was hurt. Okay, this team has been decimated the last couple years, and one guy who was there was Deebo Samuel. When you combine his usage, you would think if he was really injury prone,
he missed 2 games, big games that could have cost them the division this past year. And in 2020, he missed 10 plus games. Like, that's a problem.
Well, remember, 2020 was the year of the injuries for the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm not saying, dude, like, I'm not saying that they should be, paying Brandon Ayuk or any other receiver all of this money. If you're going to pay anyone, of course it's going to be him. I just want to see, and I think they want to see him produce and be on the field more consistently. That's all.
If you're Deebo, bro, it depends on how Deebo takes the next step. He's like, trade.
Where I'm interested in this is how far would he go, right? Because let's just say, it's different with a quarterback, right? Like, if they, with Deshaun Watson, he sat out the whole offseason, but, the whole season, and we still agree, when he's going to be back on the field, it'll take a little bit of time, but, with a quarterback, it's that valuable. Throwing, if you have a great arm, that's not really something that's going to change over a year timing your peak. But with Deebo, when you're having trouble staying on the field sometimes, if he were to hold out the whole season, that's going to plummet his value. That wouldn't be a smart decision on his end whatsoever. And as good as he is, I think he assumes that he has a little more leverage than he actually does.
I don't know. When you look at the wide receiver market, he's going to get paid regardless. You might as well pay him now. At the end of the day, we saw Tyreek Hill getting money. We saw Devontae Adams getting money.
What if he gets hurt this season, though? What if he missed 10 games, which he has in the past? The 49ers are looking good and much better then than now in terms of the money. I don't think that – what if that happens, man? I understand why he's trying to get paid, but from the 49ers perspective, it's risky. If he misses 10 games this year, what's his value at the end of next season?
At the end of the day, what length is he willing to go if he doesn't get his money? Does he say, trade me? You know what I'm saying? Or does he hold out from training camp? You got a rookie quarterback out here, man. You can't be having him holding out for training camp. I can understand Jimmy Garoppolo. He hold out a little bit. All right, cool. We already know the chemistry's there anyway, regardless. He could come later on. But you got a rookie quarterback out here, bro. Supposedly. Depending on if you decide to roll with him. You don't want this guy not showing up to training camp when you have a rookie quarterback trying to get connections with his teammates and try to figure out this system and learn this system in his second year. There could be a lot of implications if Deebo is willing to take this further. And if he is, then now the 49ers are even in a bigger hole compared to where they are right now.
Yeah, and it's an interesting decision, man, because, we agree that he is very valuable to the team, but we saw the Chiefs trade Tyreek Hill. When we saw that, it's okay, anyone can be traded, honestly, at this point.
And I think they will regret it. I think a lot of these people that's trading these star wide receivers is going to regret it at some capacity. I'm not saying the Chiefs offense is not going to still hum. You still got Patrick Mahomes, you got Juju McSchuster. I think he's going to fit well in that system. I actually love the fit there. You also got MVS. I think the offense is still going to be humming. But it's not going to be a bailout. Somebody that's going to bail Patrick Mahomes out. When Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle, and you don't have to play 2 safety against the Chiefs no more. A lot of people's not talking about that. The only reason why you played 2 safety was to take away Hill. Now you playing the Chiefs a totally different way. They're going to miss Tyreek Hill. I'm telling you that. They will. The Packers, they're going to miss Devontae Adams, but I don't care who they pick up in the draft, who they pick up on free agency. They're going to miss Devontae Adams' presence. All right, so both of these teams that's losing these wide receivers, I don't care if their offense is still putting up numbers, they're going to miss them at some point. And I think, the 49ers will be in that same boat if they part ways, if they trade, or if they don't pay Deebo Samuel his money.
The Can You Dig It Sports Radio Network is here. Revolutionize the game of media. Be a dig.